Good morning. Hello to everybody. In fact, it's actually solstice. Great to see everybody. Thanks to everyone who's watching the replay as well. I'm here with Matt Gooderson and we're live on YouTube on the Wilderness Art Collective. And it's great to see you. And you were just mentioning something really great to me, that you hadn't had a day like this before.
Yeah, you failed to incorporate your dog, the next door neighbour's dog, into the conversation. he is also live too, and I know how much
I'm just hoping they're not going to start streaming.
I know you love that noise of the dog. Yeah, I was just saying just before we press the live button that I've never experienced a release day quite like this before. In my previous life as a minor electronic rock and roll star with the band Infidels, we threw £5,000 out the window of an Oxford Street department store, and, thinking that it might kind of create some kind of utopian atmosphere. And it didn't. So if you were ever thinking that money might create utopia, it doesn't.
It doesn't. So what happened? Did people just grab it and...
We threw it in £5 notes. It all fluttered away in the wind and chaos erupted, like absolute chaos. The police were there, like the traffic was stopped. People went bananas, and they were just running out in front of the cars to grab a fiver. And we were singing music underneath the kind of money rain, thinking it would be some kind of utopian experience. It was an experiment, and I think what it led to is an understanding that money inherently changes human behaviour.
Yeah, that certainly does. Oh my goodness. So we're here today with the Wilderness Art Collective platform, and we're very excited to be sharing our collaboration together. And I am delighted that you are able to share your screen, because I'm finding that a slight challenge, because we've put together some videos in a tiled format, and it's actually in place of the installation that we were going to have for the Sidney Nolan Trust. And we've sort of been uber creative over the last 3 months and come up with a digital format for sharing Wavescape in music and art form, originating with a walk around a stone circle and a dip in the sea, and it's been transformed beyond all imagination. And I think you are are you happy to screen share, or do you want to say a little bit more about it?
I have already triggered screen share, so okay. You might have there we go.
Yeah, it's there. Great. So what have we got here? We've got it's called Wavescape Memory Box, and it's a collection of videos from the last couple of months. It features Tiliana Greenwood dancing, which was an initial part of lockdown. We took the waveforms that I'd enlarged on big silk banners and danced in the woods with them in an attempt to create something that was sort of beyond ourselves. And I think that's what we were discussing yesterday, Matt, isn't it? That this sort of extending out of ourselves and trying to make sense of what's going on, and to sort of express feelings, but also hopefully touch other people with our art. So could I invite you to, shall I choose one? Or
yeah,
would you like to choose one? I would like to start with the centre one, with Wavescape Tranquility, please.
So yeah, that was one of the Wavescape compositions. I was just I took the reins, Catherine, because you disappeared and then you popped back up. I was just talking a little bit about the composition process for that. The series was started as a collaboration, obviously, between myself and Catherine Greenwood. And I think what was interesting, Catherine, was the beginning of the journey was obviously not in lockdown, and we were looking very much at nature and humanity, people, and that relationship between people and nature and our work. And then essentially, because of COVID-19, technology got thrown into the mix, and it became a kind of triangle of influence. And I originally, after seeing your work, Catherine, it's funny because I was talking about you in the third person because you disappeared. You're back. So now
I'll do a quick Instagram update whilst we were live, but such is life.
So I originally responded to your Wavescape pictures because for me they were so musical and obviously really related to waveforms and all of the things, the way I see the world, you know, through sound. So we started this process of collaboration, and I was responding to your work in many different ways. But I think the central backbone of that was 2 points, really. One by John Cage, who was a composer and a theorist, a very revolutionary figure in music. And he proposed that the composer, instead of being a god or a grand overlord of the music, dictating every single element of the music, for example, to be played by the orchestra, John Cage was one of the first people to propose that the composer could be a gardener who plants seeds and lets the garden kind of grow under its own fruition rather than controlling all the aspects. And that resonated so much with me and felt like a great backbone for this connection between in this triangle of technology, humanity, and nature.
Yeah, and it is very much that, isn't it? Bringing in the human element into nature and interacting with it. And I noticed that with the other Wilderness Art Collective artists, a lot of them have this sort of human presence in their work. They're talking about nature, and we want to bring nature from the wild into people's homes or into people's lives so that they can connect with it further through art. But also you can't help but put that human element in it. And I think that's what happened with the dance coming in, totally interacting with the actual physical artwork. It seemed to make sense, especially in video terms. Can we now look at a couple of others and play them simultaneously? Because that's what we want to invite people to do. This is going to be up on the Wilderness for the Mind, Wilderness Art Collective website for the next couple of weeks. And people can actually have a play with it themselves and really create their own soundscape. So your choice, Matt.
Yeah, well, you know, the second kind of key point of the composition process was to challenge this idea of the active composer and the passive listener. And we talked at length, didn't we, about wanting interactivity in the way that, you know, I suppose maybe nature interacts with us and we interact with nature. We're all part of the same system. And it was very important to us to not create a static piece of work. And I know, you know, you responded to that by printing your work on silk so that the work is interactive and moves. And I responded to that by embedding each improvisation as a tile on this Wavescape Memory Box, where the finished product is determined by the user, the experiencer. So you can really make this composition whatever you like through playing things all at the same time, fading things in and out, muting things. And there is no actual finished form of this. And I love this word unfinished. I find it incredibly liberating, and actually finishing things can often cause anxiety. And I always want my work to not cause anxiety in either myself or
Yes, it's embracing the sort of the nuances of change, and I think especially as a printmaker, a lot of these images are etchings. So the one behind me is a very large etching, and yeah, the margin for error when you're making things, you really need to embrace things like timing in acid, the consistency of the ink. All these things play a big part in making the work, and I think embracing that sort of accidental is really important. And I think you've really helped me to feel less self-conscious about that and actually use it in the work, which has been great. I thought before we play another couple of bits, can we just talk a little bit about the process? Maybe so you sample original sound, so sort of natural sound, and then you play it through looping systems, and then you digitize it and represent it as layered recordings. Is that my understanding? Is that sounding good?
I think I became fascinated as a kid when we had photocopying technology, and my dad worked in a school. So obviously when I was off school and he had to pop in, the photocopier was just a source of endless joy. And I remember putting my hand in the photocopier, photocopying my hand, and then realizing that I could photocopy the photocopy, of my head or my hand. And then through that, keep photocopying the photocopies, you get this sort of degenerative process where the form takes its own identity, but still with that human imprint. And that really stayed with me as a process. And that really essentially forms the backbone of all of my work, that human to analog, digital technology, then back to human form, and then back again. And through the transferal process, the artifacts, the dust that gets left behind, I find fascinating. And the way that computers are so brilliant at copying things perfectly, but to make a computer make an imperfect copy is unbelievably difficult. And for humans to make a perfect copy requires hours of practice, endless practice, and it's still not perfect. It's still slightly different each time. And as humans, like, that's what we respond to. If I just played a loop going round and around and around, people get quite bored of that. If I asked Catherine to play the loop on the flute round and around and around, it would be slowly morphing and changing, and that really connects with us as humans. And I love that process, and that's definitely something that we shared with the transferal of medium and then the response to those transferences. And I think that's really what I connected so much with in your work, Catherine.
It was great. I think it was an initial, I mean, obviously we'd already met and had some really great chats, but you sent me an Instagram message just responding to something from my sketchbook. I think it was maybe this one, something like that.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Oh, look, on the screen, it's sort of going funny.
It goes up the top.
I was going to wear my stripy top today. Good job. Yeah. Yeah, it was something like that. And I think you just said, oh, it looks like a vinyl record. And I thought, funny that, because, yeah, music totally informs the work. And then we went on from there to, I think quite quickly, you came round and sampled some noises from the etching studio and me playing my different instruments. And I think that's the really nice overlap, is that it's, as a musician as well as a visual artist, I've been able to bring that forward as well, and it was really enjoyable having Matt sample some of my piano notes and then my flute notes and bring that into the work. And I think you've had Megan singing as well, haven't you? She's in the pink, which is really lovely. Yeah,
Megan is really the unsung hero of work with my name on it, which Megan, that was a great noise. I should have sampled that, Catherine. Yeah, so again, it's so important to me in this sort of digital age where lots of things can be done so fast. I can make this music unbelievably quickly on the computer, in seconds, really, just by dragging and dropping pre-made things into music software packages and looping them up. It's so unbelievably easy and so quick. But I think what's so important for me, I came through as an electronic musician through the analog age. So I had a 4-track tape machine, that my dad bought me, and no idea how to work that, and just played around with it. And then very early on, I worked at Asda's making pizzas and bought a really expensive sampler. It was £700. And it had, what I loved about the sampler, and this is formed, I think, the backbone of my practice, is you turn it on and there's nothing. It has no sound. It's like a blank. And you plug things into it like a microphone, and then you record sound, and then you can play the sound across the keys. And this just, my mind exploded. And that, again, has formed the backbone of my practice. So, for example, for this, the first thing that I did was, before lockdown, disclaimer, I came over to your house and I sampled you walking to your studio. I also sampled your family Bechstein piano and you playing various flutes. And it's so important to me to create this human and personal connection. So it's almost like sketchbook diary to the work. And I wanted you to feel that your world was in the music. And I think these sounds, we are so receptive to sound. Each piano, the family piano, your flute, we're so receptive to these sounds that, and also for anyone else listening, I'm not quite sure why, but we can really tell whether it's a kind of bought, sampled piano or whether it's your Bechstein. And I just think, again, the artifacts that get imparted with it. Maybe the dog was barking in the background on one of the notes, and it's all becoming part of the work.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely found when I first heard that first piece played, it was an instant emotional response from me, and it was partly because I recognised the sound of the piano. It was my granny's piano, slightly out of tune. It means a lot to me that we've got her piano. She was a very fine pianist, and she played. We finally tracked down that piece of music, actually, that I kept wondering what it was. It was a piece of Schubert that my mum's discovered what it was that's influenced me so much, and it's like waterfalls. I'd always sort of thought of that. I must share that with you. I think you'd really enjoy it.
It's interesting. Well, at the beginning of this process, didn't we? We talked about how to impart the visual to auditory feedback loop. And I've never told you this, but part of that process of discovery, I used some AI technology and I fed in these pieces that you sent me, some Beethoven violin sonatas, late works, and some Schubert thing, and I fed them all into the AI technology, and I listened back to the results, and I hated it. They were so bad. They were so bad. I just thought, I can't work with this at all. So not the things that you sent me, just the way that the AI algorithms that interpreted the work. I had such a cold response to it, and this is just as coronavirus was landing. So maybe it was just the digital overload in my life. But then I just went a step back to more human responses. So I kind of drew all over your artwork. I drew notes, a lot of sample-based things. Another piece, we talked a lot about this, the way that the digital lockdown has changed our relationship with nature and made the bird song freer, the skies a deeper blue. And we both had this experience, didn't we, where we kind of ran out into the forest. I took my shoes off and recorded the dawn chorus, and I used a piece of technology to score the dawn chorus into a piano composition, which is called Wavescape piano.
Oh yeah, I love that. I really, really respond to that one. Sorry to interrupt you there. I think simplifying, and I think that's the element of your music that I really love, this sort of minimalist approach, simplifying everything. And for me to simplify as well, a lot of my drawings are very sort of sketchy and quite busy, even though I think the threads of images, simplified images, are in there. But for me to have sort of focused down on one form, the wavescape, and all the connotations and symbolism of that that you can bring, it's just been so lovely for me to just focus, like a meditation really, on that. And I think to channel it with your music, the simplification. So you've talked a lot about John Cage in the past, and I think it's been really lovely to discover more about that idea of simplification. And yet it's so complex, and what we've got here, which it'd be great to play another couple, let's really set it going, is actually an incredibly complex, overlaid multi-image, sampled track of nature and music and sound, and yet it's got that simple structure and form and essence to it.
Yeah, it's quite an overwhelming composition if you play them all together on full volume.
I have done that. That was really fun. Can we, what should we go for? Should we go for Sky, or if I could see the comments from people, we could ask people what they'd like. We've had Waves of Tranquility. You choose, because you know what works really well. I think the
Well, I thought I did, but every time I play it, it surprises me because I can't remember what piece of music is on what tile, and that's really crucial, I think, to me, because then it's that process of discovery which I think is so important. Do you want me to just set it off and play it as a composition, as a score?
Yeah, I think that would be really nice, and I might. Should we just set the screen so that people can just see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you go for it, and we'll do this. Should we do this for like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Thanks.
So yeah, there we go. That was the single edit. You've got your microphone muted, Catherine. Yeah.
See, all I need is the sound engineer in my life. That was really great. Thank you. We just had a lovely couple of comments from Nathan at Castley Music, who said he's watching it and enjoying it, and Geraldine as well from the Art Collective. Oh. So it's really, really great to be able to share with people this project that's been rather hypnotising us. I just love the way, literally has hypnotised me, put me in a trance. Yeah. And just seeing
that form, the compositional form of that rendition, whatever performance, was very different, and that's what I really like about it. It's I've never heard that before, and you can probably see now I've done this 3 or 4 times. I'm sort of becoming an expert user with how it should work, but it's also designed just to kind of throw the mud at the wall. And I just wanted to also say it's been such a privilege to be part of this Wilderness Art Collective, as a sort of side person, but I've really enjoyed the exhibition. Me and my wife Megan have been sat at home every evening looking at everyone's work, and it's just phenomenal. I think it's really great to be part of, and such an important exhibition to have at this time when I think nature is so different for everyone at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Really
say again.
It's just suddenly become really crucial. Yeah. I feel as well as not meaning to kind of politicize everything, but I'm very aware of the privilege of having a garden and being on the doorstep of Ashdown Forest, and how different this experience is depending on whether you're in a flat or whether you're lucky enough to have a garden. And I think there's a sort of political edge to this as well, and I think this exhibition is really important to have at the moment, and also just in questioning our relationship with the environment and ourselves.
Yes, very much. I think two things. One, trying to bring some nature to people that I do know of some people that are in flats without a garden. They haven't been going out. They're isolating. It's an incredibly lonely and frustrating experience, and I hope to be able to bring a bit of nature to people like that, but equally to really value what we've got. So I think I found some frustration finding trees and woods when I wanted the sea, and really I then thought, no, I've really got to value what I've got in my garden. Every weed. I think a lot of people have been doing a lot of gardening. And really treasuring their outside spaces, even if it's a window box. You take great joy in those seedlings sprouting, and people have gone to extraordinary creative lengths to bring the wilderness somehow into their lives, or some sort of bit of wild nature.
I agree. On my my studio, I've hung bird feeders up all along the grid. And as I was composing these pieces, what's been so interesting is as the birds are feeding, some of the seeds are dropping down and dropping onto the metal fence, causing these kind of sporadic tinkles. And I never got to do this, but this project has extended into what's going to be an album. And I thought I'm going to put my my glockenspiel down underneath the bird feeder and have the seeds create a score for one of the tracks, because it's been so inspiring having that and seeing the birds interacting and composing this music very, very early in the morning, sometimes as the sun is just rising, and starting with that you know, that sort of sense of joy that you wake up with before the brain has really realized the scale of environmental, political, and viral led crisis that we're in. So I just wanted to capture that little space before that time.
Yeah, that little tranquil space. I was just going to mention, obviously it's solstice tomorrow. I'm hoping to watch the sunrise, although normally I sit on top of some hill or Glastonbury Tor or somewhere like that and watch the sunrise for solstice. Or one time I was on a lovely beach with some friends and we slept out all night up in Northumberland. But my sort of connection with Stonehenge was last week. It was completely empty as we drove past it, and that's what's in the bottom right square of the tilescape. And I'm really pleased that it's sort of been made into sort of vignette. I had some great help from Chris McKellen. Just wanted to say thank you to all the techie help that we've had with producing all of this. It's been quite extraordinary and amazing, hasn't it?
Can I also jump in and say a huge thanks to Richard Vernon for doing all the coding for this piece, and to Matthew Luke for doing all the graphic design, and to Wheatley for doing the label management, and to my daughter Rosalie Gooderson and my son Artie for contributing to the music, and to Megan Gooderson for improvising vocals alongside the pieces. So it's been a really team effort.
Yeah, definitely. I could just add to that with Tiliana Greenwood. Emerald helped with assisting on the video production, and Ollie behind the scenes, endless cups of tea and support, as well as Geraldine Van Himmeestra from the Wilderness Art Collective, and Claire Dooney behind the scenes there. So plus all the other artists. But
now
thanks.
You see why Hollywood movies have such a list of credits. This one's got quite a lot list.
Yeah. So we're going to say goodbye for now, but I'm going to upload this onto the website so that people can have a play themselves. And thanks to everybody for joining us on YouTube. If you've got any questions, please send them in. And thanks to everyone who's watched in replay. And talk to you again soon, Matt.
Could I also just add that the music is available to buy with Catherine's incredible artwork. You can buy it on cassettes, because owning a cassette is an unbelievably joyful experience. And you can also buy it on CD from the Bandcamp page, which I'm sure Catherine will provide a link to. And you can also download it for free, or you can choose to pay whatever you like for that. So thanks for having me, Catherine, on this. Thanks to the Wilderness Art Collective. Thanks to every single person that watched this. It's been a real pleasure to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.